everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about Disney Vacation Club point charts, what they are, why they matter, and what changes they made for 2022. And I'm really glad that you're here. So if you're new, I'm Jen. Welcome. If you're into Disney Vacation Club, Disney Cruise Line, all things Disney, please subscribe to my channel and make sure you hit those bell notifications so you're always notified when I come up with a new video. Last week, Disney came out with the new point charts for 2022. This was not a surprise. This is something they do every single year, either in December. Sometimes they don't do it until January. But in a nutshell, every resort has a certain amount of points available for members to book. And that number varies from 7 million and something points available at Old Key West, which is my home resort, to 15 million and something at Saratoga Springs. Some of the smaller resorts, like I think Beach Club is only like 4 million points available. And Disney cannot change that number of points. So those are the points available for every single year for the entire length of a contract for a particular resort. What they can do, however, is shift the seasons and make certain weeks of the year more expensive and other weeks of the year less expensive from a point requirement standpoint. Now, the goal of all of this is to have it be kind of evenly spread throughout the year so you don't have everybody wanting to book the same week in December and nobody wanting to book in July. So they will make changes occasionally to balance out supply and demand. Now, every year when the point chart comes out, you will read, for lack of a better word, conspiracy theories about how Disney is trying to do this or Disney is trying to do that. I don't buy into any of that. I truly do believe they're just trying to reallocate the points in a way where everyone can kind of get what they want and we can all find availability when we want it. And as a member, I know my vacation habits have changed, and that's really been true across the board. For instance, it used to be a lot more expensive to go during the summer, but Disney was finding a lot of DVC members weren't booking in the summer. So they've made a decision to make summer slightly less expensive and then make October and November, which are both months that have gotten a lot more popular, slightly more expensive. Now, in our time with DVC, and we've owned since 2012, I have never seen any major jumps. Now, of course, there's always the one person that likes to go that one week that feels like they got the short end of the stick. And I'm not saying I'm not empathetic for that, but because I'm pretty flexible on when we go, and I'm also very frugal with our points, I am always going to slightly shift if need be in order to be in one of the less expensive seasons. So let me put that 2022 point chart back up again. And I can just tell you that if you look at those dates, and they used to name the seasons, but I guess they decided that was a little too cute, or there were too many seasons now, so that didn't work. It used to be that the summer season was a more expensive time, and for my home resort, they have now moved basically the entire summer into the 1, 2, 3, 4th from the top, moving from least expensive to most expensive. So if you want to go now, let's say over 4th of July weekend, for example, and you want to stay a week in a 1-bedroom, that's going to cost you 197 points. If you want to stay in that exact same accommodation Christmas week, it's going to cost you 300 points. So time of year definitely matters. Size of accommodation definitely matters. And yes, Disney can and will shift the point requirements for any given week. Now, I reached out on Instagram and I asked you guys if you had any questions about point charts, thinking that I might get one question or two questions. Oh, no. I got so many questions, and most of the rest of what I want to talk about in regards to points charts will come out as I answer your questions. So let's go to the gram. By the way, if you're not following me on Instagram, you totally should. I post over there pretty much every day. So, if once or twice a week isn't enough for you, then definitely go follow me on the Instagram. But you guys asked some really great questions. And point charts, by the way, They will give you, if you go to the Disney presentation, they'll give you a big thick book that has all the point charts listed. We get that every single year. It's pretty readily available, but it definitely varies wildly from resort to resort, from season to season, and depending on if you want to stay in a studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or a grand villa. And that just makes sense, right? So we don't need to explain all of that. But you guys really did have great questions, and I want to start with this one first. This is from G. Andrea. She says, how many points do you really need for a week at most resorts? I've been on the tour a few times, but I never feel like that question is answered well. Well, the reason it's not answered well is because it depends. If you want to stay at Riviera, a week there is going to cost you way more points than if you want to stay at my home resort, Old Key West. And depending on if you want to travel in July or May or September or December, your point requirement's going to be different. So the only way to answer that question is really to look at a point chart for the resort you are considering. So in the example that I gave of my home resort of Old Key West, we hope to stay in a grand villa a year from January. That's our next big family trip. I have some banked points to use, so I'm really excited about that. And that did go up slightly from 2021 to 2022, but not by a lot. Now, when you look at this chart, it can feel a little confusing. And I don't know who asked it, but somebody literally asked, they said that the chart doesn't make sense to me. And I think I get why it doesn't make sense, because it says Sunday through Thursday, and then it says Friday, Saturday, and then it says weekly. So to me, a week is 7 days, but for the purposes of these charts, a week is actually 7 nights. So you're going to pay fewer points during the week, so Sunday night through Thursday night, than you will Friday and Saturday night. So that's how you end up with that weekly number. Now again, because we're a very frugal family, normally what we will do is if we come in on Friday or Saturday, we will pay cash for a night maybe at a moderate or off property, and we will not check into our DVC resort until Sunday, because then I'm only paying for Sunday through Thursday night, and we'll typically depart on a Friday. It's just one way to make those points stretch just a little bit further, and I don't know what it is about my personality, but I can guarantee you I am always going to be traveling when it is the least expensive time of the year or close to it. My husband's requirement for Disney travel is basically he doesn't want it really, really crowded, and he doesn't want it to be too hot. So that really does put us in a little bit of a bind, but it definitely delineates the times of year that we can go. We're not typically going to go in the summer. We're never going to go Christmas week. I just don't particularly love the parks when everything is at capacity, so that's just not how we travel. So if that makes sense. So that leads me to my next question, which I thought was really good. Okay, this is from Carrie Vink. Carrie asks, will the changes impact the way you vacation? Not for us for this year, but that does not mean that in subsequent years that will not change for us. So if you look at the week when we typically go, this in 2022, I believe it will be January, I want to say the 3rd through the 9th or something like that. In 2021, that exact week in a Grand Villa was 363 points. And in 2022, it's going to be 368 points. Well, since I'm in a situation where I'm banking and borrowing anyway, that is really not a big deal. It's only a few points more. For us, that just doesn't really matter. Now, why it might matter is if you bought into Disney Vacation Club and you know for sure that you only ever want to go that one particular week every single year, and Disney is constantly changing the point requirements, and you purchased that exact amount, that could get really annoying. Now, they did offer, and I'm not even sure as I'm filming this which resorts it's offered at, but a few resorts do offer a fixed week option. And if that is super important to you, you might want to consider that, because what that does is it locks in those amount of points, and you're guaranteed that you're going to have enough points for that week for the life of your contract. So if you're that person, then that's what I would consider doing. To me, people that travel the exact same week every single year and they cannot vary from that at all are going to be frustrated from time to time with these chart changes. Now, granted, not every single time, because some years it doesn't change at all, and some years your week might actually go down. But you do have to anticipate that, if you've got a 50-year contract, consumer needs are going to ebb and flow, things are going to change, and you can't really expect it to be that exact amount. So that brings me to another great question, which was, and this is from Lisa Lessig, if the points change every year, how should someone buying plan? I always say buy a little more than you think you're going to need, because you can always bank those points if you need to. Yes, you run the risk of maybe having a few points that you can't use in any given year, but I would rather be in that situation than always be a few points short to make my reservation. You do have the option at 7 months prior to your reservation to buy additional points every single year that are one-time use, up to 24 points as of the time that I'm filming this video. So that is also an option if you're just short by a little bit. Obviously, if you're traveling during a really busy time of the year that's in high demand, that's less ideal because you can't access those points until the 7-month mark instead of being able to take advantage of that home booking resort window, which starts at 11 months prior. So that's why for our family, for instance, we typically stay in a 2-bedroom. This grand villa nonsense is kind of just a one-time splurge because, 2020. And that was when we purchased Old Key West, that week that we was 195 points. I actually own 220 points. So in theory, I should always have a few extra points that I can, shift around. I could do a short trip if I had a lot that had accumulated, that sort of thing. But to me, that felt a lot more comfortable. You just don't want it to be just right on the button because Disney can and will make changes. Now, the thing I want to say about that is as they make these changes, it is not nefarious. There isn't some master plan to try to, screw you over. The point is really to even out availability throughout the year so that it's truly fair for all members. And if you're our family, you're all about the bargain, right? I'm all about saving points. So it would change if all of a sudden that second week of January became super high points. I absolutely could see us shifting to a different time of the year. And I'm okay with that. I mean, it's a 50-year contract and, my boys are almost out of college. So our vacation needs are definitely going to change. So it's kind of like the double-edged sword, right? You have the flexibility with Disney Vacation Club, but along with that comes the fact that you're not necessarily going to have the exact same amount of points for the exact same week for the life of your contract. So this is from Helen Rose 9876. Where is the biggest bang for your points? Still pretty new, curious of best use. Well, Helen, going back to what I said about me being maybe the most frugal DVC owner on the planet, although I don't bring my own crock pot, that's next level. But Old Key West is your best value, in my opinion. There are some others. I think Boardwalk Standard View is a pretty good deal. But we are people who want to stay in a grand villa. So for us, those grand villas at Old Key West, bar none, are the best deal on property. I really can't answer that question for you, though. You really have to look at a point chart because I don't know if you want to stay in a studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. But Old Key West is one of the only ones that has 10 points per night for a studio. A lot of the times of the year, it's very reasonable. Another one that's reasonable is Saratoga Springs. If you don't do the preferred room category, they have some really great bargains. Less bargain would be something like Riviera, something like Bay Lake Tower. Those do require a lot of points. Something like Polynesian, if you're looking to use it just for a studio, you can get a studio way cheaper per week from a point perspective pretty much everywhere else than you can get it at Poly. So it's kind of a tough question to answer without knowing your particular situation. I know for our family and the way that we like to travel, Old Key West was by far the best bang for our buck. A lot of people would probably tell you Saratoga Springs because it has that little bit later expiration date, although you can purchase a later expiration date contract for Old Key West if you purchase direct from Disney, which is what we did. So I realize that the point charts can feel a little bit confusing, but it's actually not that difficult. There are a lot of great online calculators you can use. I usually use the one through David's Vacation Rentals. I'll put that down in the description box. You can just plop in there the dates that you typically go, and that will give you the current points required for that week for right now. Now, when 2023 rolls around, can anybody guarantee you that that's going to be that exact same number? No. So I would plan on purchasing a few more points than you think you're going to need, or be prepared to be really flexible. Another way to look at it is you could say, I know we're always going to want to travel during one of the least busy times of the year. So that just allows you to shift and change, because Disney's telling you by what they're showing you in these charts, what they now view as the busy season and what they now view as the less busy season. So people that used to go to Disney in October and said that there was no one there now have found that that is absolutely not the case. I can tell you from personal experience, we used to find it very crowded in the summer. Now I find the summer one of the least busy times to go. I still don't go in the summer because it's very hot, but it is not as crowded as it used to be. So definitely there is an ebb and a flow to it, and Disney is doing the best job that they can, in my opinion, to balance that out so that it's fair for all of the members. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you want to watch more videos about Disney Vacation Club, I have an entire playlist that I will list for you right here. It is complicated. There is no getting around it. If I showed you what a typical contract looks like for DVC, it would kind of blow your mind. But remember, it's complicated because it is a heavily regulated timeshare. It is subject to all kinds of laws and regulations. And one of the reasons I started my channel is I really wanted people to have all of the information they needed as consumers to make sure they could make the best possible decision for their family. Again, if you're not already subscribed, please do so. I hope you're being really good to each other, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.